The UK property industry has spent decades convincing you that a decent retirement means either staying put in a city where every bill eats your pension alive, or spending every last pound on a cottage in the Cotswolds that you can barely afford to heat. Both options are wrong. Both options are designed to benefit someone who isn't you. What nobody talks about, what the estate agents and the retirement brochures and the property shows quietly ignore, are the towns scattered across England, Wales, and Scotland, where retirees are buying solid homes for prices that most Londoners spend on a single year of rent. Towns where the NHS surgery is a 10-minute walk away, where the neighbours actually know your name, where you can leave the house without gripping your bag, and where your state pension covers the bills with money left over at the end of the month. These aren't struggling towns. These aren't places that time forgot because there's nothing worth remembering. These are towns that the property speculation machine bypassed, and that's precisely what makes them extraordinary for anyone who actually wants to live well rather than simply own something expensive. We mapped the data. We crossed the retirement quality of life scores against the real Rightmove and land registry figures. And what we found breaks every assumption you've been sold about where you need to be to live a good life after 60. If you're tired of watching your rent go up every year while your savings go down, leave a like on this video and stay with us until the end. Because number one on this list is the kind of discovery that changes plans. Let's open the map. Number 12. Todmorden, West Yorkshire. Most people in London have never heard of Todmorden. Most people in Leeds haven't given it much thought either. And that invisibility is exactly why the retirees who found it are quietly delighted that everyone else looked the other way. Todmorden sits in the Calder Valley on the border between West Yorkshire and Lancashire, tucked between steep wooded hillsides that turn gold and amber every October in a way that costs nothing to look at and never gets old. The town centre is compact and entirely walkable, with a Victorian market hall that still holds a proper outdoor market twice a week, independent cafes, butchers who know what they're selling, and a community that has been building something unusual here for over a decade. That something is called incredible edible. Todmorden became internationally famous in urban agriculture circles when local residents began planting fruit and vegetables in every available public space, roadside verges, the police station, car park, the canal towpath, the railway station platform. You can walk through the town and pick fresh herbs and strawberries from public beds. The project spread to hundreds of cities across 30 countries. It started here, in a town most people have never heard of. Average property prices in Todmorden sit around the £170,000 to £190,000 range, with terraced stone cottages from the mill era frequently available well below £150,000. The stone construction is solid, the insulation is honest, and these houses were built to last centuries rather than decades. The Calder Valley line connects you to Halifax in 12 minutes and Leeds in 30, which means you keep access to major hospital services, retail, and family connections without paying Leeds prices to live there. The crime rate is well below the national average. The surrounding countryside, the South Pennine Moors, the Rochdale Canal towpath, Studley Pike Monument above the valley, provides walking that serious hikers come from across the country to do. And the sense of active community here is something that larger, more anonymous towns simply cannot manufacture. For retirees who want character, outdoor life, low prices, and the feeling of belonging somewhere that has a genuine identity, Todmorden is a starting position, not a compromise. Number 11. Hawick, Scottish borders. If you are prepared to cross the border into Scotland, and if you value your pension, you should at least consider it. Then Hawick hands you something that exists almost nowhere in England at this price point. a real market town with a strong community identity, surrounded by some of the most dramatic and peaceful landscape in Britain, with average house prices that recently stood at around £148,000, according to Rightmove data, even after recording growth of nearly 18% in a single year. Hawick sits on the River Teviot in the Scottish borders, roughly 55 miles south of Edinburgh and 45 miles from Carlisle. The town built its economy on textile manufacturing, cashmere wool knitwear, and that heritage is still alive in the mills and in the town's sense of craftsmanship and self-sufficiency. Hawick Common riding, held every June, is one of the great civic traditions of southern Scotland, a festival of horses' music and community that has run continuously since the 16th century. The practical reality for retirees is compelling. A two-bedroom stone cottage in the town costs roughly what a parking space costs in central Edinburgh. The Scottish Government's approach to health and prescription charges means residents over 60 pay nothing for prescriptions, a real and meaningful saving over months and years. Borders General Hospital in nearby Melrose handles serious medical needs. And the surrounding countryside, the Cheviot Hills, the Teviot Valley, Hermitage Castle, is extraordinary. The winters are cold, and the summers are honest rather than warm. But for the retiree who wants space, silence, community, and a home they can own outright rather than rent indefinitely, Hawick is one of the most financially rational decisions available in the United Kingdom right now. Number 10. Saltburn-by-the-Sea, North Yorkshire. There is a pier in Saltburn-by-the-Sea. It is the longest pier in the northeast of England. It stretches out over the North Sea, and on a clear evening, you can stand at its end and watch the light change over the water in a way that costs nothing and feels like everything. The Victorian Cliff Tram, the oldest water-powered funicular railway in the country, still carries passengers between the town above and the beach below every day. Saltburn was purpose-built in the 1860s as a Victorian seaside resort by a Quaker businessman named Henry Pease, who wanted to create somewhere genuinely beautiful and genuinely civilized. He succeeded to an unusual degree. The town retains its original Victorian street grid, its tree-lined avenues, its ornate ironwork, and its atmosphere of quiet earned dignity. Average house prices in Saltburn run around £220,000, which is significantly below the national average for a coastal town with this level of character and quality. The crime rate is extremely low. The community is tight-knit and active, with a strong art scene centered on local galleries, and a farmers' market that takes Saturday mornings seriously. The North Yorkshire Moors are 20 minutes away by car. The James Cook University Hospital in Middlesbrough, a major regional facility, is 18 miles south. For retirees who have spent a working life dreaming about sea air and a proper pier and a town where the architecture makes a daily statement about the value of beauty, Saltburn is not a fantasy. It is a postcode. Number 9. Ludlow, Shropshire. Ludlow has been called England's finest medieval town by people who have spent serious time studying medieval towns. It has also been called one of the best food towns in Britain by people who take food seriously. Both reputations are earned rather than marketed, which is increasingly unusual. The town sits on a steep hill above the River Teme, near the Welsh border, its castle ruins commanding a view over the Shropshire and Herefordshire countryside that has barely changed in centuries. The medieval street pattern is largely intact. There are over 500 listed buildings in a town of 10,000 people. The Thursday and Saturday markets have operated continuously for 900 years. But here is what the food reputation means practically. Ludlow has an extraordinary concentration of independent butchers, fishmongers, bakers, and delicatessens buying directly from local farms and producers. The weekly market overflows with Shropshire beef, Welsh, lamb local cheeses, and seasonal vegetables grown within 20 miles. For retirees who care about eating well without paying supermarket premium prices, the daily reality of food shopping in Ludlow is genuinely different from what most British towns offer. Average house prices sit around £240,000 to £280,000, with two-bedroom period terraced houses regularly available below £200,000. The Shropshire countryside, the Long Mynd, the Clee Hills, the Welsh Marches, is accessible by foot directly from the town. Ludlow Community Hospital handles routine care, with the Royal Shrewsbury and Hereford County Hospitals covering specialist needs. The town's crime rate is among the lowest in the West Midlands region. The one honest drawback is that Ludlow is genuinely rural. The nearest city is Shrewsbury, 28 miles north. This is not a town for retirees who need to be close to a major urban centre. It is a town for retirees who want to stop needing that. Number 8. Selby, North Yorkshire. Selby is the kind of town that most retirement guides walk straight past on the way to York or Harrogate, and that oversight is costing those guides, readers, significant money. The town sits on the River Ouse in the Vale of York, 12 miles south of York city centre. The first thing you notice arriving is Selby Abbey, a Norman church so large and structurally impressive that it stands comparison with York Minster in terms of sheer architectural ambition, and it has been standing in the centre of this market town since 1069. The second thing you notice is that house prices are running at roughly half of what you'd pay in York for the same property. Average property prices in Selby sit around £180,000 to £210,000. The market town centre has a weekly outdoor market, independent shops, a good selection of cafes, and the kind of practical amenities, supermarkets, pharmacies, GPs, that a retired person actually needs within walking distance. Selby War Memorial Hospital handles day-to-day healthcare, with York Teaching Hospital covering serious and specialist needs 18 minutes up the A19. The train connection is significant. York is 12 minutes by direct train. Leeds is 25 minutes. For retirees with family in either city, or who want occasional access to the cultural life of York at a fraction of York's property prices, Selby offers genuine arbitrage. You live in a quiet, safe, historically significant market town, and you choose when to access the city rather than being permanently inside one. Selby sits in a river plain, which means some flood risk in certain postcodes. This is worth investigating before committing, and the Environment Agency's flood map tool will tell you exactly what you need to know street by street. Number 7. Narberth, Pembrokeshire, Wales. Narberth is small, fewer than 2,000 people, and that smallness is the entire point. This Pembrokeshire market town sits in the heart of southwest Wales, 10 miles from the coast at Tenby, and 15 minutes from the Pembrokeshire Coast National Park, which is widely regarded as the most beautiful coastal landscape in Wales, and one of the finest in the entire British Isles. The coastline here, limestone arches, hidden coves, sea stacks, clear water, is the kind of landscape that people move countries to access. In Narberth, it is a Sunday afternoon drive. The town itself is a single main street lined with independent businesses that have survived and thrived in a way that larger, more accessible towns have failed to replicate. There are galleries, delicatessens, a bookshop, a vintage market, cafes that take coffee seriously, and a community of artists and craftspeople who chose this town specifically because it offered them quality of life that money alone cannot buy in more fashionable places. Property prices in the Narberth area for a 2 or 3 bedroom home sit in the £180,000 to £250,000 range, with more modest properties available below that. Welsh Council tax rates and the availability of Welsh Government support schemes for older residents add practical financial benefit. Witherbush General Hospital in Haverfordwest is 18 miles away. What Narberth offers above all is the rare combination of genuine community, world-class natural surroundings, and the peace that comes from being far enough from the motorway that the world doesn't simply pass through. Number 6. Alnwick, Northumberland. There are two things every visitor to Alnwick remembers. The first is the Castle Alnwick Castle, the ancestral home of the Percy family since 1309, the second largest inhabited castle in England, the one used as Hogwarts in the first two Harry Potter films, the one whose battlements look exactly as a castle's battlements should look. The second is the Alnwick Garden, a 21-acre contemporary garden directly beside the castle that receives over 600,000 visitors a year and contains the largest poison garden in Britain, which is precisely as dramatic as it sounds. But Alnwick is not a tourist attraction that happens to have people living in it. It is a working Northumberland market town of 8,000 people with an active community, a good selection of independent shops, regular markets in the shambles, and the kind of social infrastructure, pubs with local regulars, community groups, walking clubs, that makes daily life feel inhabited rather than performed. Average house prices in Alnwick run around £200,000 to £230,000. The Northumberland coast, considered by many to be the finest unspoiled coastline in England, with Bamburgh Castle, Dunstanburgh ruins, and Seahouse's fishing village, all within 20 minutes, is directly accessible. The Northumbria Specialist Emergency Care Hospital in Cramlington and the Royal Victoria Infirmary in Newcastle are both within an hour. Crime rates in Northumberland are among the lowest in England. The pace of life is genuinely slow. The landscape, the Cheviot Hills, Kielder Forest, the coast is extraordinary. And the sense that you have found somewhere real and unhurried that most of the country has never visited is for many retirees the most valuable thing of all. Number 5. Beverley, East Yorkshire. Beverley is one of the most complete and beautiful market towns in England, and the fact that it is not famous outside its own region is one of the great unresolved mysteries of British life. The town is built around Beverley Minster, a Gothic church so architecturally ambitious that it makes many cathedrals look underpowered by comparison. The medieval town plan surrounds it the Saturday market and Wednesday market squares, the medieval North Bar Gatehouse, the Georgian townhouses along Register Square, the independent shops along Toll Gavel that have resisted the chain store invasion with unusual success. The Westwood, a common land of nearly 600 acres immediately bordering the town, is where racehorses still graze freely between the meetings at Beverley Racecourse. Average property prices in Beverley sit around £250,000 to £270,000, with a range from first-floor flats at well below £150,000 to substantial period houses above £400,000. For a town of this architectural quality, community life, and surrounding landscape, those figures represent extraordinary value. Hull, 12 minutes by train, provides a full regional hospital in the Hull Royal Infirmary and a comprehensive range of retail, cultural, and transport connections. The community here is genuinely active. The East Riding Festival of Words, the Early Music Festival, the folk sessions in the pubs on Wednesday nights. Beverley is a town where cultural life is not imported from somewhere else. It grows here among the people who chose to live here. Beverley is not a secret that has escaped anyone who has visited it. It is a secret only to those who haven't. Number 4. Buxton, Derbyshire. Buxton is the highest market town in England. At 1,000 feet above sea level in the Peak District, it has the kind of air that cities spend money trying to manufacture with air purifiers, and it has had it for free since the Romans built a spa here almost 2,000 years ago. The Romans came for the thermal springs. The Victorians came for the same reason, rebuilding Buxton in the 1880s around the Crescent, a Georgian bathhouse and hotel complex that has recently been restored to its original glory as a five-star spa, and constructing an opera house, formal gardens, a pavilion, and wide tree-lined streets that gave the town an architectural ambition unusual for its size. The Buxton Opera House, a Frank Matcham theatre from 1903, still stages professional productions year-round, including a world-class opera festival every summer that draws audiences from across Europe. Average house prices run around £200,000 to £230,000, with solid Victorian terraced houses regularly available below £180,000. The Peak District National Park is directly accessible from the town centre, Axe Edge Moor, the Goyt Valley, the Manifold Valley, some of the finest walking in England, immediately on your doorstep. Cavendish Hospital handles local healthcare, with Manchester's major hospital network a 45-minute journey by train. The winters at this altitude are real winters. That is not a warning so much as a description. For retirees who grew up with proper seasons and have spent decades in cities that produce only weather rather than climate, Buxton's winters are not a drawback. They are part of the character. Number 3. Llandrindod Wells, Powys, Wales. Llandrindod Wells is not a town that announces itself loudly. It sits quietly in the centre of Wales, in a county Powys that covers more land than some European countries and contains fewer people per square mile than almost anywhere in Britain. It is surrounded by the Cambrian Mountains, the Elan Valley reservoirs, the Red Kite feeding station at Jigrin Farm, and a landscape of such complete and uninterrupted emptiness that silence here is a physical experience rather than merely an absence of noise. The town was developed as a Victorian spa resort and retains its Victorian architecture more completely than most British spa towns that have been overdeveloped or redeveloped beyond recognition. The lake at the centre of town, the ornate bandstand, the park with its bowling green and putting course, these things are still in use by actual residents weekly. Property prices here are among the most affordable for any Welsh market town. Average prices across property types sit below £200,000, with substantial detached houses in the surrounding countryside available for considerably less than equivalent English properties. Council tax rates are moderate. Bronnelly's Hospital handles community care, with Bromley General Hospital in Aberystwyth and the Prince Charles in Merthyr covering wider needs. The honest reality of Llandrindod Wells is that it asks something of you, the willingness to be genuinely away from things. There is no motorway nearby. The nearest large supermarket requires a 20-minute drive. But for the retiree who has spent a working life surrounded by noise and obligation, and who wants at this stage to be surrounded by silence and space mid-Wales, and Llandrindod Wells, specifically, is one of the few remaining places in Britain where that exchange is still available at a price that doesn't require the entire pension pot. Number 2. Amesbury, Wiltshire. Amesbury holds a distinction that sounds invented, but is verified by archaeological record. It is the longest continuously inhabited settlement in Britain. People have lived on this site beside the River Avon, 3 miles from Stonehenge, since at least 8,820 BC. That is not a marketing claim. That is a radiocarbon date from the University of Sheffield, established from human remains found here in 2018. The practical consequence of this history for a modern retiree is that Amesbury has bones. The town feels settled in a way that newer developments simply cannot replicate, because the ground beneath it has been inhabited longer than any other patch of British earth. Stonehenge itself is a 10-minute drive, which sounds like a tourist attraction until you realize that living near Stonehenge means having access to Salisbury Plain, one of the most extraordinary open landscapes in southern England, as your daily walking ground. Average property prices in Amesbury run around £240,000 to £270,000, significantly below nearby Salisbury's market, and well below the Wiltshire average, given the town's proximity to major military establishments that have historically kept the profile modest. Salisbury District Hospital, a comprehensive regional facility with an excellent reputation, is 9 miles away. Amesbury itself has a good GP provision, a leisure centre, supermarket coverage, and the kind of quiet, low-crime residential character that comes from a town that has never needed to shout about itself. Salisbury is 20 minutes by bus or car, which means you can access one of the great English cathedral cities, its arts centre, its independent shops, and its river walks on your own schedule without paying Salisbury prices to live. Number 1. Saltcoats, North Ayrshire, Scotland. Here is the number. Average property prices in Saltcoats sit around £114,000, according to current market data, with entry-level flats available for under £70,000, and solid 3-bedroom houses regularly listed below £130,000. That is not a misprint. That is a coastal town on the Firth of Clyde, 15 miles from Ayr, 35 miles from Glasgow, with a sandy beach, a working harbour, an esplanade, an active community centre, and a train station with direct services to Glasgow Central in under an hour. Saltcoats was built as a working seaside town, a harbour town that served Ayrshire's coal trade, and later became a popular day trip destination for Glasgow families. And it retains the honest, unpolished character of a place that has never needed to dress itself up for incomers. The seafront faces west toward the Isle of Arran, and the sunsets over Arran from Saltcoats Beach are the kind of thing that photographers come specifically to capture. The practical case for retirement here is overwhelming. A retiree who sells a 2-bedroom flat in London or the southeast and buys outright in Saltcoats exits the transaction with 6 figures in cash, no mortgage, no rent, and a monthly pension that now covers all expenses rather than falling short of them. Scottish prescription charges do not exist for anyone over 60. The NHS Ayrshire and Arran Health Board runs Crosshouse Hospital in Kilmarnock, a full district general hospital 18 miles away, with University Hospital, Ayr, as a closer alternative. The town has been seeing regeneration investment and improving transport connections. Glasgow, 35 minutes by train, provides everything a major city provides. Arran, a 45-minute ferry from the nearby port of Ardrossan, is one of the most beautiful islands in Britain. The retirement industry built its business on the idea that the good life costs more than most people can afford. Saltcoats is evidence that this claim was never about the good life. It was about the industry. The conclusion of all of this is simple, and it's one the property market has been obscuring for years. Quality of life and house prices are not the same thing. They are not even closely related in the parts of the UK that the brochures don't photograph. The 12 towns on this list share something. They were bypassed. Not because there was nothing there, but because speculation fashion and proximity to London drove investment and attention somewhere else. And in that bypassing, they remained affordable human in scale and genuinely livable in ways that the famous retirement destinations stopped being 20 years ago. Your pension does not need to stretch. It needs a different postcode. If this research helped you think differently about where you can afford to live well in the UK, subscribe to this channel. Every week, we cover the real estate opportunities, the undervalued towns, and the practical financial decisions that the industry prefers you not to make on your own terms. We'll see you on the next map.